Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, evening, and morning, depending on where you are in this world. Is this working? I just thought I'd go live impromptu here. And the reason being is that, yeah, we're good. Okay, cool. The reason being is that there's a few interesting things happening in the boxing world right now. And as regular viewers of the channel will know, I don't do that many news videos, and I should, but I want to do. I just don't find it that interesting to talk about unless it's something like really big or exciting. So I thought what we could do is go live and we'll just see who comes on, because I'd rather talk with other people about what's happening in boxing. I don't think it's analysis and stuff like that's different. That's easy. I can jump on and do a video for that. But if we're going to do some news stuff, then I thought let's go live. And I'm going to wait a few minutes just to see who we can get on. But there's a few things I want to talk about. I'm just going to pull up the Ring Magazine Twitter feed so I can sort of work my way through this news and see what we've got here. And I have no idea if anyone's even going to come on, because there's no event on, which is normally what would get people to come on one of my live streams. But either way, I'm sure I can turn this into something afterwards. Just wait for a few more of you to jump on. If anyone's getting in, bang a like on the stream. And I'm going to talk about Dillian White first, I think. Actually, no, I think we'll talk about Ben Whittaker first, because it's an interesting little piece of news. And it's getting late for you UK fans. So we'll start with the UK stuff, and then we'll move into the US news, I think. Let's have a look. Who have we got in the chat right now? Any regulars? What do you guys want me to talk about first? We've got Dillian White and his pull-out from the Joe Joyce fight. We've got the Haney Garcia sort of reunion, I suppose. Ah, Scotty, big up, mate. I've seen you in the comments before. You are a regular, absolutely. You know what? Let's start with Ben Whittaker, because Musico9 has said if he doesn't knock out Cameron, it won't be a good look at all. He's already stopped showboating. Well, and it's a good point, isn't it? I mean, I think the biggest thing with Ben Whittaker that we all are talking about after that fight is this guy actually better when he showboats? It's a really strange thing to say, because I thought that showboating most of the time was an unnecessary addition, unless you're trying to irritate and frustrate your opponent to get them to be more aggressive. And there's not really in my mind, there wasn't really a strategic reason why you would showboat. It's not going to score you points. It pisses people off. But actually, it seems that potentially that creates a more sort of flow state, more of a relaxed mindset for Ben Whittaker. So it does make me sort of think, actually, this guy maybe needs that, which is a weird thing to say. But the news is that he has teamed up with Andy Lee for this next camp. And it's an interesting one, because I think I'm right in saying he was with Sugar Hill. And obviously Andy Lee and Sugar Hill worked together on Tyson Fury. But I've heard a couple of people that are really in the know in the boxing industry say less than complimentary things about Sugar Hill. And I always held Sugar Hill in quite high regard because of the whole transformation from the Fury Wilder 1 fight to the Fury Wilder 2 fight. The transformation with that Kronk style was so exciting to see in such a short space of time that I really bought into the idea of Sugar Hill being this really great coach. Well, I've heard a couple of people say to me now that actually he might not be all that, and he might sort of be living off former glories. So I don't know. It's really hard to say. I don't know. I've never been in a camp with Sugar Hill, funnily enough. But the Andy Lee link-up is an interesting one. He's building himself a nice little stable now. He's got Joseph Parker, Paddy Donovan, And now he's added Ben Whittaker to that. I'm not sure if he's got anybody else. But what I find really interesting about the fighters that Andy Lee has, the way that they fight, the way that they train, lots of lateral movement, lots and lots of lateral movement. That is probably Parker's biggest strength. It was why I thought he would give Dubois a really tough time, a really hard fight. And I also think that that was the reason why he, against Bakole, especially with the lack of training camp, I sort of thought, yeah, Andy Lee is going to, Joseph Parker is going to give him nightmares. And that lateral movement in the heavyweight division is so important because so many of the heavyweights aren't the best movers. So my feeling is, based on the way that Andy Lee's other fighters box, now look at what Ben Whittaker probably needs for this rematch, and this might be a video worth doing, actually. But I look at what he probably needs for this rematch, and I think, do you know what? Andy Lee might be perfect for Ben Whittaker. He might be exactly what Ben Whittaker needs, because I think that he'll keep his style the same. He'll bring out his best attributes. He'll make sure the lateral movement is good. When he was doing well in the Cameron fight, he was popping combinations, shots, he was moving, he was getting off at angles, throwing combos, and it was only really when he decided to tough it out and engage in the pocket that Cameron started to bust him up and do pretty well. So he's definitely going to have to move. He's definitely going to have to box. And I think that, Andy Lee could be a great match for him. The one thing I've heard sort of questioned about this matchup is just, will it be a good character fit? Will the personalities merge? And I'm not sure. I don't know the answer to that because I don't know either of them very well. I've interviewed Andy Lee once, and that was a long time ago. Very, very long time ago. But I think Andy Lee's a great guy. I really respect him. He also had a fantastic career. And he's building himself a nice little stable and a nice little reputation. So I'm really pleased for him. And I'm really intrigued to see how this link-up goes. I think you'll have him on point. I think that maybe all that Whittaker needs is a bit more discipline. I think he just needs a bit more discipline, a bit more focus. But I do think with that lack of punch power, he's going to have to box like that. And I don't think the showboating is necessarily detrimental to him winning fights. But I do think that he needs to be sharp. He needs to be on it, mentally super focused all the time. All the time. I don't like what I saw in that Cameron fight. I watched it again a couple of days ago just to refresh my mind before sort of talking about him. And I'm more convinced now than ever that he flipped himself out of the ring. When you watch it, it's so clear when they're going backwards that he's sort of almost looking over his shoulder, leans his head right back, and that indicates to me somebody who is mentally quite a weak person. They're not focused. I say mentally weak versus you or I, mentally strong, but versus the rest of the elite boxing crowd, mentally weak. And that fragility doesn't just disappear overnight. And I think that Liam Cameron will fancy it. I'm not going to make any predictions about that rematch right now because I want to do a proper analysis. But my initial feeling is that I don't see any reason why it goes differently. But perhaps adding Andy Lee into the mix will be the missing ingredient that is needed. Perhaps. I don't know. I do not know. But I definitely think that this is a good move. I think this is a good strategic move by Ben Whittaker. Guys, get in the comments. What do you think? Well, we've got a couple of comments. Kaj, Cameron didn't respect the power at all. No, he didn't, mate. I think that will be what holds Whittaker back more than anything else, will be the fact that he doesn't seem to have tremendous punching power. He's going to have to hit guys with shots they don't see coming. He's got to be super quick, and he's going to have to focus on late stoppages, I think. Nothing wrong with building a career out of, not getting... I mean, Bivol's not someone who knocks many people out, or I don't even know what his knockout ratio is, actually. It's probably around 50%. But Cameron can be... Whittaker can be somebody who, boxes and moves, wins rounds really well, looks flashy doing it. He doesn't have to necessarily stop people, but it's going to be a long career if you don't have that punching power, and it looks like he doesn't, which might ultimately be what limits him. And if you're one of those guys, you have to be ultra focused in your fights. You can't make mistakes. You've got to completely outbox people and beat them down and beat them up. At the very least, I think he's looking at round 6 to 12 for his stoppages. And the second he stepped up to someone with a decent boxing ability, it's been problematic. And I don't think Liam Cameron's going to have any stress going into this rematch. But I do think he can outbox him for 12 rounds. I do. I just think he's got to be on task and switched on. Musico 9, I think Cameron will get the job done if Whitaker ego gets to him and starts to trade blows and fight him. I think, mate, well, I think you're bang on, mate, because I think that's exactly what was happening in the first fight. I think that was exactly the reason that he started to lose that first fight, because the first couple of rounds he looked really sharp. Cameron having the odd bit of success here and there. But I also think maybe Whitaker underestimated Cameron. And I do think it was very much that sort of welcome to the pros. This is the pro game now. This is what it's all about. It's a long marathon. It's about patience. It's about setting traps. It's about planting your feet and landing big shots. And you could be outboxing someone dramatically and lose. That is the thing about, that is the beauty of the sport of boxing, right? So I think that Whitaker, he needs to learn the pro game. I think Andy Lee could be absolutely smashing for him. I think Andy Lee could make a massive, massive difference for him. But guys, let me know what you think. Get in the comments section below and tell me how you see that fight going, and what do you make of Andy Lee as a coach? I want to know what you think of Andy Lee as a coach, because I rate him. I do. He's got quite an old school feel to him. I remember when I met Andy Lee, he was, it was Paddy Donovan fight. It was an MTK Global fight. I don't know if any of you remember MTK Global. They've sort of disappeared off the face of the earth. If you want to go and find out why, go Google it. But I met Andy Lee when he was coaching Paddy Donovan for, I can't remember who he was fighting, some one of those fights to build your record up. And he was wearing a white shirt, like a nurse's shirt, and it had that sort of old school Emmanuel Stewart look. It's very cool. I think he's someone who respects the sport, respects the old ways. And I just feel like mindset-wise, I think he could be perfect for Whitaker. I think the mindset, as well as the sort of typical Andy Lee fighter, seems to be lateral movement, controlling the range. I don't like the amount of measuring that the guys he works with seem to do. But if you can get away with it, you do it, right? So, but that was definitely a factor in that Crocker-Donovan fight. Donovan was measuring constantly, but he was also outboxing and totally in control of that fight. So it's an interesting one. It is an interesting one. But please bang a like on the stream if you're here. I want to try and get a little momentum going. And do get a comment in the chat. Let me know. In fact, you know what we should do? We should do a quick poll. Quick poll on Cameron. Cameron Whitaker. We'll do it Cameron Whitaker because I think we know Cameron was on the way to potentially winning that fight. And it looks like Whitaker chucked himself out the ring. So who wins? So I think that's intriguing. I've not had a chance to look yet at the Haney Garcia stuff because I think they were going at it. They're not fighting each other, they're fighting other opponents in the sort of build up to them. I think it's weird. It looks like they're going to have a rematch, but also they have a court case going on. So the whole thing's a bit curious, really. And I don't know. I think we'll definitely talk about that in a minute, but it's an interesting thing to talk about, this whole criticism that Devon Haney has received for taking legal measures against Ryan Garcia. And people were already criticizing him just for complaining about the loss, complaining about the fact that Garcia failed the drug test. And the whole thing has just been a bit of a mess. Before we go into it, I will also say that I think Ryan Garcia is absolutely necessary and fantastic for boxing in terms of his skill, in terms of his personality. It's so disappointing that he failed that doping test because he's primed to be the next massive, massive boxing star. He's already not, if he might already be that, but I'm not sure. Before we get into that, we've got a question from Romanair KFP Kibble Supplier. How much in percentage do you think the team makes the boxer? I mean, that's sort of a how long's a piece of string sort of question. I think it probably varies fighter to fighter. I think that some fighters need the discipline and structure of a team around them. And the team very much elevates them to levels of performance that they otherwise couldn't have achieved. But I also think you get fighters that make trainers look better than they actually are. So honestly, it's a really difficult question to answer. But I think with someone like Whitaker, who's got all that natural raw ability, I think he needs a coach who can refine his style and get him to channel that energy, channel that technique and ability into a specific plan. I think for Whitaker, as he goes up the levels, that's really important because, like I say, he doesn't have that natural, I'm going to El Sparker you one-punch power. So for me, I think that it really depends on the fighter. It really does. There was an interesting conversation over there. I think it was Hatman was talking about Virgil Hunter and basically saying that he's an example of a trainer who did very well with one Hall of Fame fighter, but hasn't really been able to replicate that since. He did actually mention that some of Amir Khan's best performances were under Virgil Hunter. But it's an interesting point. Some of these coaches probably have better reputations than they deserve because of one or two proteges that they have. So it really depends. But I'm fully believe that the right team for the right fighter, and that might just be a team that lets you do your thing. Some fighters don't need that much guidance and that much direction. They've got that much talent and ability. Sometimes all they need to be is kept on the straight and narrow. But some fighters need a tactical plan. You look at Ben Davison. I think he's a fantastic example of a coach who is amazing for some fighters and probably not so good for others. I won't say who it was, but I had a conversation with a fighter once who Ben was with for a while, and he didn't like the way that Ben did things. I won't say who that was because it's not fair, and they wouldn't want it to be in the public domain. But they weren't super keen on the way that Ben did things. But other fighters very clearly he's been transformative for them and incredible for them. You know, everybody uses the example of, my mind has just gone completely blank. What's his name? How have I forgotten his name? Who's Kakacha fighting? How have I forgotten his name? Lee Wood. What's wrong with me? I didn't actually Google it either. I was in the process of Googling it, then I remembered. Anyway, sorry, Lee Wood. Guys, this is the first thing I've done today. My brain is dead. I'm drinking coffee, so forgive me. Anyway, Ben Davison was absolutely unbelievable for Lee Wood. Like transformative. Took all his best tools, gave him game plans. You saw those Lara fights. The first one, he didn't quite box to the plan. He couldn't make it through the 12. The second fight, he did it. It was absolutely incredible. So really interesting. It's a really interesting question, interesting debate to have. What percentage of the team makes the fighter? Well, it is ultimately impossible to say, but the right team, be that a team that's more standoffish or a team that's very prescriptive, will be probably a large part of what decides your career. I will say that. Okay, let's have a look at some of these questions in the chat, 'cause we've got a few come through. So we've got, let's see. Diggy J, just tuned in. Is Dillian White not fighting now? No, he's not, mate. Apparently, he's pulled out of the fight with an injury. And I'll get into that in a minute. We'll just finish this Whitaker conversation. I'll just see what the other comments are on that, and then I'll talk about Dillian White. Ben wouldn't fight fire with fire? Oh, Ben, I think you mean Ben wouldn't fight fire with fire this time. Yeah, that's what you've written. I'm sorry, I'm being an idiot. From Guiro. So he wins. Well, it just depends, mate, because he might get drawn into something. And it depends how many punches he has to throw to keep Liam Cameron off. Can Liam Cameron gas him? There's a lot of questions around it. I just think he has to keep moving. Can't stay in the pocket for too long and dip down the way he was doing. And I think that his biggest attribute and his biggest asset is his speed and his feet. So absolutely, you wouldn't have him sitting in the pocket for longer than he needs to. It's one of them. It's all the way in or all the way out, you know? It's a classic boxing adage. You are safest all the way in or all the way out. Kyle Noble. Watching Andy Lee in interviews, you can see the passion to still learn. Think helps keep the fighter loving the sport. You see it with Joseph Parker. Yeah, and for sure, he's definitely had a huge part to play in rejuvenating Joseph Parker. I'm still undecided on whether or not this is the best Joseph Parker we've seen or whether he's just been matched really well. But at the same time, he's gone in there and done exactly what he needs to do. So you have to say it's a very good Joseph Parker no matter what, whether you think he's better than previous iterations or the same or whatever. Him and Andy Lee seems to work. And he's definitely emphasized that lateral movement. He's definitely emphasized the counter-punching. And you could see how he boxed quite differently for different opponents as well. With the Wilder fight, he took center ring and sort of held his feet a bit more. And made sure he was the come-forward fighter. So Andy Lee's definitely a smart coach, definitely adaptable. So I think for Whitaker, creating a plan and a style for him will be essential and interesting. Diggy J, yeah, Parker's team build him up. He's such a gent. Indeed. Stuart, what's good, Henry? New to the channel and agree with a lot of what you say. Well, I'm glad you agree with me, Stuart. That's good to hear. And perhaps from time to time we'll disagree, and that is fine too. One thing I love about this channel is when we get it right, people come with different opinions. And I form an opinion, but often it challenges, often people will come to the channel, and as long as you're articulate and you sort of say things in a respectful way, you haven't just come to be a dick, which some people do, not many. But And it doesn't bother me, by the way. It's just that this is when it's great, is when someone brings an opinion to me and I'm like, actually, that's a really good point, and I didn't think of that. Or actually, I thought of that, but now you're pushing me back. Now I'm starting to consider that point a bit more. So the reason I like this channel so much is people come with their perspectives, and I might still disagree with you. You might still disagree with me, but the point is that like we all have a chat and we all see. And the reality is we're all trying to analyze and understand and react. So you'll get a lot of channels in the boxing space. I think the reason we're growing fast over here on A Guy Called Henry is because we try and be as objective and down the middle as possible. A lot of channels have so much bias, it's ridiculous. So I try and be as unbiased as possible. Everyone's got natural biases, certain things they like, certain things they don't like. But I always try to say things as I'm seeing them. And I try to take all bias out of it. But a lot of channels you will find, they are absolutely obsessed with certain fighters. They're absolutely obsessed with certain people in boxing or certain ways. And they can't see anything else. So I just never want this channel to become that. So yeah. I'm glad you agree with me, Stuart. But at the same time, if any of you don't agree with me, that is completely fine too. We're here to discuss. We're here to chat. And I want this to be a boxing community at the end of the day. Guiro, Andy Lee is good, studies the opponent well, and prepares the fighter. Yep, I'd say that seems to be the case. Music09, I saw a video stating that Devon Haney doesn't have the right people around him. The person said if it was Bomac, the extra few pounds that Garcia had would have been run off, or the fight doesn't happen. Devon Haney's dad was very nonchalant about it. I'm not sure, to be honest, mate. I think that you can't make the fighter get the weight off. They already had the restrictions in there for the extra weight that he would pay a fine. And I think that they wanted the fight to happen because it was a huge money fight. And I think they were very, very confident that they would beat Ryan Garcia no matter what. I really do. I think they thought this is not going to be an issue for us. And I, before the fight, thought, well, that's an easy win for Devon Haney. I really thought he'd outbox Ryan Garcia. But I think that actually that Tank Davis fight kind of warped my perception of Garcia because he was really weight drained in that fight. So that had a big impact on him. But also, I think the Luke Campbell fight had a lot of impact on how I saw Garcia. I thought he's got a lot of speed, a lot of power, but he's a bit green, and I think he could be outboxed. And I thought that Haney was the more polished boxer. But fighters get better, especially when they're Ryan Garcia's age, and he looked damn good in that fight. Now, whether or not the Peds had a part to play is a whole nother discussion. But yeah, we'll get into that in a minute. I'll just finish these comments about Whitaker. Stuart, Sugar Hill got a lot of praise after beating Wilder. Never heard of him before. Yeah, I mean, they say he's, his whole background is the Kronk gym. I think he trained, who was he training before? He had a heavyweight. I think he had Adonis Stevenson, I'm pretty sure, Sugar Hill. So he'd been around. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Scotty, Skipping, what are your thoughts on Usyk versus Dubois? I tell you what, guys, what I'll do is I'm going to move into the Dillian White injury because getting a few other questions. If you want to get a question that's something I'm not talking about, then if you want to send a super chat, then I will do that. But otherwise, I'm going to try and stick to the flow of the conversation. So let's get into Dillian White. Apparently, Dillian White, to the person that just sent the latest message, I know who you are, and I will leak your phone number to the people that are watching. There's not many, but there's enough that it would cause you problems. So let's not do that. Dillian White has pulled out of this fight with an injury. Let's take a look at the reporting of it and see what they're saying. Because when Dillian White pulls out of a fight, I'm not meaning that to rhyme, there is always questions asked. There are always questions asked. I am not saying anything about whether or not Dillian White has failed a drugs test right now, but all I'm saying is he has failed them before, and it's been announced that it is an injury for this one. So make of that what you will. I'm absolutely not saying that Dillian White has failed any drugs tests or has taken any drugs in this camp. I'm just saying that he's pulled out this fight, and the reason they've given is a hand injury. So Queensbury Promotion statement. Due to a hand injury sustained during training camp, Dillian White will no longer be able to compete in his scheduled bout on 5th of April against Joe Joyce at the Co-op Live in Manchester. A replacement opponent is now being finalised for the Juggernaut, and an announcement regarding this will be made shortly. So, the question is, what's the story with Dillian White? What's wrong with him? And who should Joe Joyce fight instead? It's a month out, so they should be able to get a good replacement opponent, 4-week camp. Hopefully someone who's already ticking over who can go straight into a decent camp. I think that at this point in his career, Joe Joyce needs someone who has a similar profile to him or bigger for it to be a worthwhile occasion, because I think Joe Joyce's reputation has been significantly hit after that Chisora loss. Back-to-back losses to Zhang, loses to Derek Chisora. I thought he would bust up Derek Chisora with his jab. I thought he would just move his feet and jab and be fine, but he wasn't. And I thought that the Dillian Whyte fight was a perfect fight for both of them. It was sort of a crossroads matchup that I thought was just the right... Yeah, I thought it hit the right note for both men. Unfortunately, it's off, and they say they've organized a replacement opponent, or they are organizing a replacement opponent. And I just wonder who might take that. I wonder who would take that. Where my head instantly goes, and I don't know if this is right. I don't know if it's just because he's the man of the moment. So tell me what you think in the chat. But where my head instantly goes, to be honest with you, is Moses Italma. Also a Queensbury fighter. And we know he wants to move quickly. We know he wants to move quickly this year. This is his amateur record. I'm just pulling up his box rec. Obviously, just had that TKO win over Dempsey McKeon in the first round. So he'll be fit. He'll be in shape. He'll be ready. He'll be ready, in my opinion, unless he's had a lot of time off and he's gone and jumped the gun and he's gone and eaten all through this camp. He should be ready for a fight in 4 weeks' time. And I think him against Joe Joyce would be really good. I'd learn a lot about Italma in a Joyce fight. All right, I'm going to have to get to these super chats. Matt Borgerson. All right, Matt Borgerson, everyone. He doesn't want the credit. But he is the guy who was the first man who ever sent me a super chat. And now he's just gone and sent me 2 back-to-back. So he's an absolute legend for this. So thank you, Matt. Do appreciate it. I will answer these one by one. So you've said Joyce needs to retire. The brain damage he's received in the fight should never be cleared by any medical board, especially a commission. And you think he shouldn't fight Italma because he's going to end up like G-Man. His cognitive abilities have significantly declined to where it's scary. Yeah, mate, I think those are really valid points. Really good and really valid points. And you're right. You're right. I agree that I think Joe Joyce should retire too, to be honest with you. Because his biggest thing has been his punch resistance. The reason that he was called the Juggernaut was because he'd get smashed up and just keep walking forward, and it was mega impressive. But the reality of the situation is that he's not that guy anymore. He gets really hurt now. And Zhang, look, I don't know if it was already going, because at the end of the day, I remember talking to Sonny Edwards about Joe Joyce. And he said to me, I don't know if, to be honest, I don't remember if it was a conversation we had or if I heard him saying this. I think we spoke about this when I was in the gym with him. He said to me he thinks he's the kind of guy that wears his shots the next day, because how can you eat shots like that and not be affected by them? And some of these guys, I guess they have some kind of delayed reaction to the shots. You know, they don't instantly take the pain of them, take the concussion, and it's only later, sort of 24 hours later, that they feel, God damn, I've been in a fight, which is dangerous, very, very dangerous for someone like Joyce, because he ate so many shots in those fights. And I do think his punch resistance is gone. He started to get knocked down. He started to get knocked out. And frankly, I completely agree with Matt Borgerson. He shouldn't be fighting. But we also have to respect the fact that he's his own man. He will make his own decisions about his career. And you can't really say anything other than that. It's his career. It's his career to mess up. It's his career to finish when he wants to. Now, the point that Matt made, though, about the medical board not clearing him, it's so difficult because the way they assess these guys is based on brain scans and all that sort of stuff. And we don't know enough about the brain. We don't know enough about how neurological diseases develop from fighting and whatnot, because it's never really been studied fully. So what they really need to do is learn more. They need more science. But right now, I'm sure he's doing all the tests. He's probably passing all of them. Unless someone's paying people off. I don't think that's the case. I just think he's probably passing the tests that currently exist. But I agree with you. If I was Joe Joyce, I would retire. He's lost his biggest attribute. And I just do not see him. I just don't see him coming back now. And I think he wants a couple more paydays before he retires. It's quite scary, really. But I'm interested to see what Dillian Whyte is going to do now that he has this injury. And you know, again, I'm not saying he's failed a drug test. Let's not go there. But what I would question is whether or not he's had a better offer. And there's a lot of this going around at the minute with the heavyweights. Daniel Dubois pulled out last minute against Usyk. And there's been multiple messages coming out of his team as to whether or not he was pulled or whether or not they pulled him, whether the commission pulled him. It's really, really unclear. And I'm really not sure what the deal is with that. And there's all these rumors about how he thinks he can get Usyk, so he's pulled out. Look, for me, I'm sure he was sick because it makes no sense to me to pull out the day before the fight. Why would you do that? Or 2 days before the fight? It makes no sense. You would do it in the weeks building up to it. And I think a lot of that speculation is coming from the fact he jumped in the ring with Usyk when he got the opportunity, but when he also had the Joseph Parker fight already scheduled. So I don't think that's the case, but there is a lot of this rumor mill going around at the minute. And the sort of thinking is, has he had a better offer from somebody else? Say, for example, Anthony Joshua has recovered his confidence. He's decided he wants to get back in the ring now. He's ready to do it. Maybe Dillian White would be the perfect opponent for Anthony Joshua to have a comeback fight before fighting a Fury, or maybe trying to fight Dubois again. I'm not sure, but all the noises are that AJ still wants to fight, so it's an interesting one. Matt, you've sent me another donation, mate. You're an absolute legend. Thank you so much. I hope you've got a good job, because I wouldn't want you sending me money you can't afford to send me, but I do appreciate it. Matt says, watch an interview of Joe Joyce before the Zhang fight. Oh, you're talking about his speech. Yeah, I mean, he's always been a slow talker, so I don't know. It's an interesting one. It's a very, very interesting one. I'm going to end that Cameron poll. Only 8 of you voted, but 67% of you think Cameron will win. You're involved in sportscasting. Okay, cool. You're all good then. But I do appreciate it, mate. Thank you so much for the donations. And if you're involved in sportscasting and you're here, then I take that as a big compliment. So thank you. Let's get to some more of these comments. Stuart wants a rematch with Parker. He barely broke sweat against Bakole. So you think Parker should step in and fight Joe Joyce again? Do you know what? That's actually quite a good shout. I actually like that, Stuart. That's a good shout, because it kind of clears up the loss on Parker's record, because I do think he'd beat Joyce now. He'll get a little payday. You'd think it would be a relatively easy win for Parker. So yeah, I agree with that. I actually think that's a great shout. Italmo or Parker would be really good. I like that. Scotty Skippin likes the idea of Italmo versus Joyce. Chevy Imp says, damn right, to Matt Borgerson. Joey says Zhang versus Joyce 3. I'll be honest with you, mate. I wouldn't want to put Joyce through that again. He got absolutely bust up by Zhang twice. I don't think we need to see it a third time. I don't think the interest is there. Although Zhang does need a comeback fight, I don't think sending Joyce to his sort of... It'd be like sending him off for an execution. Do you know what I mean? He's already had it twice, and he's so punchy now that, like, you just, like, don't do it. I say punchy. I don't know how much his speech has deteriorated. I need to sit and study it, but I'm talking in terms of his punch resistance has gone. I shouldn't use the word punchy. I didn't mean punchy. That was nuts when Chisora knocked him out, Stuart. It was crazy. I just didn't expect it. I thought he'd get outboxed. Absolutely bizarre. Really strange stuff. Stuart, I was a White fan when he was the can man, but he's looked terrible recently. I totally agree with you. Awful in that Tete fight. It was absolutely brutal to watch. And I think he is just in it to find one more payday. But he is still a big name, Dillian White. And again, a good opponent for somebody who you want to boost their bankability, their commercial value. Again, Italmo White would make sense to me. If you really want to fast track Moses Italmo, if you really want to try and get him a world title shot this year, then and try and break that Mike Tyson record, which I'd love it. It would be just so exciting for boxing. It would be fantastic. Mohammed, I'm Ard Bruce Lee. Great name. I bet Parker to beat Joyce in the first fight. Bad bet. I mean, to be fair, mate, I think it was a good bet. I just think that, I mean, Parker said he was sick. And with his recent performances and with the way that Joyce is looking, I'm inclined to believe him. Joyce's best night at the office, probably. Yeah, it probably is his best win on his record, I'd say that. Alvo says, would like Hrgovic to step in, but I doubt it. Yeah, that would be a good comeback fight for Filip Hrgovic. Although, he did say he would retire if he lost against Daniel Dubois, and we've not heard a peep out of him since. So I do sort of question, have we seen the last of Filip Hrgovic? Sort of unofficially, he's disappeared off into the wilderness. And he had that sort of menacing character before, didn't he? This, I'm indestructible, I'm a bad man, you can't beat me persona, and I just wonder if that's sort of been beaten out of him. Mohammed Aymar Bruce Lee says, I think Italmo makes short work of either right now, to be honest, and not a bad bet, a bad beat. Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay, got you. I thought you mistyped. Okay, yeah, fair. You were unlucky, mate. You were. Before we leave tonight, we've got to do another topic. And I will do it about another 15 minutes, I think, 20 minutes maybe, on Garcia and Haney. And I just want to go on the newsfeed from the Ring magazine, and have a look at what's being said in this press conference. Because you've got Lopez, Haney, and Garcia all in the same room. They've got having this face-off on Times Square, which I think is a fantastic idea. Having a boxing event in Times Square will be absolutely epic and so good for boxing to be exposed to the mainstream. I think it's a genius idea. But I think it's fascinating seeing all three of these guys in the same room together. So Haney's fighting Jose Ramirez, and that's a really interesting fight to me. Jose Ramirez is a good fighter. I think that he'll be too basic for Devon Haney, but that is a good fight. Ryan Garcia fighting Rolly Romero. I think Ryan Garcia will deal with Rolly Romero. Absolutely no problem. Absolutely no problem. But it's great. I'm glad Ryan Garcia's back, but it's also a difficult one for me because he did fail that test. And none of us really know what went down. Team Garcia came out of a lot of different competing statements. And a lot of this press conference, I imagine, if I look down, has probably been about Haney and Garcia going back at each other. Yeah, they're going at it here. Let me have a listen to this clip before I report back to you what they're saying. I think I can play this, actually. Let me just add this as a source and let me know if you can hear this. Audio output capture. Okay, just bang a thumbs up if you can hear what I'm playing.
Hey, Turkey, I am your champion, by the way. Ring Magazine, I am your champion, Your Excellency.
We don't give a fuck what you
Your
are, bro.
Excellency, I am your champion.
Bro, we don't give a fuck, bro. I'm tired of hearing this shit. We don't give
Boxing,
a fuck.
baby, you gotta respect the origin.
Promise I'm gonna get
1600
you.
BCE.
Enough of this shit.
You guys are so boring. You guys are talking so
Shut the
polite
fuck
to
up.
each
Yeah,
other.
because that's how we keeping it.
You guys are all talking so
loud, bro.
politely, man.
We gonna run that.
What the fuck is
Remember
this?
that. We're gonna run that.
Yeah,
I like it.
I hope,
100%.
but like, bring it
Yeah,
in.
100%.
Bring it in. Y'all
wanna
not
be
even
great
put the
too.
tip in yet.
Bro,
like,
I
come
said,
on,
bro.
pause, by the way, pause. But y'all haven't
God
even
damn,
put the
shut
tip in, bro.
All right, getting fired up, Ryan. Okay, I'm gonna
Ain't
end
nobody talking shit right now.
All right, I've probably been demonetized for the amount of swearing that was in that clip. But Garcia and Teofimo Lopez going back at it. And I love that fight. What can I say? I absolutely love that fight. At 147, Garcia Lopez would be absolutely ginormous. That is a monumental fight. And these guys, they were all at 135 at one point, and we all thought it was going to be the three kings at 135, Garcia, Lopez, Haney, and there was Loma in there as well. Tank was also in the mix. It was, the four kings, five kings, whatever the hell it was, many number of kings it was. That was a damn exciting time, and now they're all moving up to roughly the same weight division except for Tank. I think we'll start seeing some of these fights. But I think, to talk about Ryan Garcia for a second, I was so disappointed when he failed that drugs test because he is the megastar that we need in boxing. He is. He's the next guy after Canelo. He's the next guy after whoever the biggest names are right now, whatever you want to call them. Your AJs, your Canelos, your Furies. Usyk is obviously a huge name, but he's not that megastar. And I feel that Ryan Garcia is that guy that we need because of the speed. I mean, everybody loves speed. Speed is the thing that really captures the imagination just from a stylistic point of view. And that left hook that he's got is so fast. But also, he's this damn good-looking kid. And he's almost this sort of Oscar De La Hoya reincarnate in terms of his appearance. But also, he can talk. He's braggadocious. He's definitely got some kind of psychological, mental instability. He is so flamboyant. I don't know if it's him putting it on, though. But it seems that the consistency with which he's able to do it, I would suggest he's not all there. Or maybe he's just a little bit of a character. But I think Ryan Garcia is absolutely tremendous character for boxing, stylistically as well, just brilliant. And we need him. We need him in the sport. And absolutely gutted that he failed that test. And I think he probably did take something because, boxing's already rife with rumors about doping and doping at the top level and all that kind of stuff. And I just really wish that I didn't think that. I would love to have concrete evidence he didn't take anything. Now, from what Eddie Hearn said, from what I understand, it was probably something to try and get the weight off. So whether or not that performance was enhanced by PEDs, I'm not sure. But what I know is I want to see him in the ring with the biggest names, against Devon Haney with a rematch, against Lopez. I'm going to have to pause for a second because Matt Borgerson is bloody paying my bills here. Mate, thank you so much for these super chats. He says, here's my issue with Ryan Garcia. More of a question we don't have an answer to. Does Ryan Garcia thrive in chaos, or will the discipline make him thrive? That is a very, very good question. And then your second comment you've put is, my concern is the disciplined form. My concern is the disciplined form Ryan might show will take away the aspect of that barbarianism he showed against Haney in their first bout. And that is a very, very valid point. And a lot of what makes him who he is that sort of maverick nature, that maverick spirit. So I think it's a question of just finding better balance. Discipline in the sense of making sure he's as fit as he can possibly be and in as good a shape as he can possibly be. That if indeed it was an accident that he took the PEDs, that his diet is on point, that his supplements are all checked. Professionalism to the max from the camp point of view. But you're absolutely right. Personality-wise, I don't think he should be tempered. I just think he should not be drinking. He shouldn't be partying and smoking and all the other things he claims he was doing in the build-up to the fight. But outside of that, I want to be a Ryan Garcia fan. I think he's brilliant. And I think that speed, it counteracts so much that a better boxer could do, as we saw with Devon Haney. And he's got the speed to capitalize on the smallest mistakes. And with Haney, they were small mistakes. It was not bringing his guard back up properly. And most fighters can't capitalize on that because they're not quick enough. But Ryan Garcia is and was. So I'm fascinated by that. Absolutely fascinated by that. Stuart says, actually, let's go for this comment here. Mohammed Ahmad Bruce Lee said, I enjoyed all the content lead up to the last crescendo. Henry, keep it up. Thank you very much, mate. I do appreciate it. Roman Air says, honestly, the Haney-Garcia fight was the biggest reputational blow for both. That is 100% true. 100% true. And it shouldn't really have messed up Devon Haney's reputation. But at the end of the day, boxing is the most macho, mano a mano sport. It's all about toughness and resilience and willingness to go to the well. And the way that Haney complained after the fight, whether you think it was right or wrong, it damaged his reputation because a lot of people didn't like it. A lot of people thought he was being weak and pathetic. And I think that was tainted and probably helped by the fact that Garcia claimed that he didn't take anything, and it made it look like that Haney was sort of looking for sympathy and people thinking that you got beaten up, mate, whatever you say. But it's a really difficult one, and I kind of understand both perspectives, but I feel bad for Devon Haney. I do think that this situation of suing Ryan Garcia will set a significant precedent in boxing. I don't like it. I think from a fighter's mindset and mentality point of view, it could be quite damaging to Devon Haney. But I also think that it could set a precedent that would stop doping, which is huge. So it's a difficult one for me. I see both sides, and I understand that from a pure fighting challenge perspective, it's difficult. Stuart says the first fight was a mismatch, but it wasn't a level playing field. I mean, yeah, that does seem to be the way it was. Chili T says, has anyone seen Errol Spence? My man vanished. Yeah, man. I think maybe he's done. I think he was there was rumors he was going to fight at 154 against Virgil Ortiz, I believe, but it never happened. Alba says Spence just disappeared with Oscar Rivas and Hergovich. Yeah, they're all probably chilling somewhere. Matt, again, Matt, I can't thank you enough for these donations. Really, mate. Very, very kind of you. You are literally funding this stream. So everyone, big up Matt. Some fighters have a fighter's number. As great as they are, Ali Fraser, Roy Tarver. Yeah, Tarver's great point. Possibly Tank Roach. Doesn't take away from their skill. Yeah, 100%. You're absolutely right. And I think that Devon Haney is just fast enough to capitalize on the mistakes that Devon Haney does make that other guys just can't touch him with. Daniel Cockrell, who do you think has the biggest chance of losing their next fight between Garcia, Haney, and Lopez on the New York card? Good question. I think that Garcia will deal with Rolly, no problem. I think that Jose Ramirez is a very good fighter. Don't know if he's elite, but he's very good. And Teofimo Lopez is taking on, what's his name again? Arnold Barboza Jr. I've not watched Arnold Barboza Jr. I haven't watched it. Or maybe I haven't. I just forgot him. Hang on. Let me have a look. Let me have a look at Arnold Barboza. Oh, no, wait. Who did I watch him against? Catterall. Of course. Right. How did I forget that? Okay, and he's beaten Jose Ramirez as well. And he's, I think Sean McComb possibly should have won that fight. I think that was the fight where Sean McComb was screaming robbery. I think that Lopez will deal with him, no problem. I think Lopez is a level above him. I think the biggest chance of an upset, I'm going to say, would be would be Jose Ramirez against Devon Haney. But I still expect Devon Haney to win that fight comfortably, I have to say. Let me have a look. Garcia didn't even try to make weight. Yep, it didn't look that way, mate. It looked like he was, he went into it with the mindset of, we'll take the fine, and I guess you could call it a strategy, but it's not great. It's really, really not great. Mithrandir, my friend, you are back on the channel. Good to see you. Errol Spence lived quietly on his farm with his family. People need to stop trying to get him to come back. Well, until he hasn't officially retired, mate, that's what they'll do. Comment from Remoni Mode. Big fan of your channel, mate. Keep it up. Thank you, bro. I really appreciate that. That's very nice of you to say. I get a lot of nice comments on this channel. I think sometimes my friends look at my channel and they look at the comments and they're like, everyone's so nice to you. And I was like, yeah, I know. Like, you're much nicer to me than my friends are. So, so yeah, I think people are quite shocked at how not toxic my comment section is. So, but I feel like what you put out is what you get back, right? So I feel like as long as I'm being fair and objective, I'll attract fair and objective people. But if you're some toxic psycho, you're going to attract, the mental deranged fanboys, which is what I'm trying to avoid. So yeah, we'll keep doing things the way we're doing them. Ramirez looked shot against Barboza. Yeah, to be fair, mate, I didn't watch that fight. So I'm speaking in an uninformed way. I think all those guys win. And then I think that the Saudis will look to start making some massive fights at 147. 140, 147. That 147 division needs reinvigorating. And I think part of the reason that Boots Ennis is trying to stay at 147 unify is he knows that some of these guys are going to be getting in the mix. So that division could suddenly explode. Daniel Cockrell, Ramirez. Yeah, sorry, I just read that one. Muhammad Bruce Lee said, big up Matt. Exactly, big up Matt. What a guy. I spent enough on donuts this week, though. Who are you donating to, mate? You should be sending them over here. Henry, you should offer more ways to support. I know YouTube takes a cut. That is a good point, and that is something I'm thinking about. YouTube does take a lot of the money, so it would be good to create something where if people do want to support me, maybe Patreon. I've got a Patreon, so I could start plugging it, I suppose, but I feel like I want to offer some kind of value, so at least here people get their questions read out and whatnot, so we'll stick with this for now. Howdy, Henry. How's it going? Crazy X, man. Big up, bro. Big up. Good to see you. Matt again. I feel embarrassed, Matt, to be honest with you, but I'm not going to say no. I just wanted to ask, in terms of an improvement Tank can make against Roach, do you agree that Tank was admiring his work a bit too much and not using enough head movement? Those jabs was rough. Do you know what, Matt? I think that the biggest problem with Tank is he doesn't have enough looks in his game. Or at least he doesn't offer enough looks. I think that he so believes in his ability to land that counterpunch, that single shot that will knock somebody out, that he boxes in almost quite a lazy fashion. And it reflects somebody who is talking a lot about retirement. It reflects somebody who is looking for the easiest way to win his fights. And honestly, keeping this distance, counterpunching, I think that actually does... Yeah, I think that style leans into a guy who doesn't really want to be in there that much. He doesn't want to get hit too much. He doesn't want to have to work too hard. And I know he's been able to do it because he's so good and so talented. He is elite, no question about it, at counterpunching. What he needs to do is do what Terence Crawford does. Terence Crawford, amazing counterpuncher, but he's also very, very active with his jab when he needs to be. He offers different looks and different angles. And I think the biggest problem with Tank Davis is just that he doesn't offer enough for you to think about in between. So it meant that it was much easier for Roach to enter the pocket and to be defensively sound in his own right and engage on his terms. And frankly, I think that's what we saw. So I think that the biggest thing with Tank is I think that his head movement was decent. I think it was pretty good, but I just think he was not active enough. He just was not active enough. And it was so easy for Roach to keep him on the end of the jab because Roach was comfortable. He was comfortable when he was outside of range. I just think that Tank needed to apply more pressure and give him more to think about. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. And definitely let me know what you think about it. Matt Borg is Turkey's burner. Mate, look, I'm in a position where I can still say whatever I want about Saudi because I've not been given any money yet. So, yeah, if the way I talk suddenly dramatically changes, you'll know I've sold out and taken the bag from Saudi. But no, I don't see any reason why I would, to be honest. I don't know what they would offer me. I have no idea what they would offer me, to be honest with you, the Saudis. I think I have my DAZN affiliate deal, which is just a percentage of pay-per-views sold. my dream is to build this channel. My dream is for the channel to be massive, to have legitimate brand deals and sponsors, and have big enough viewership that the ad revenue pays me well enough that I don't need to work with any particular promotional outfit. That said, I'm in a position where at the minute I'm still trying to make my life work. So I'm not ruling out working with anybody at this stage, but my dream would be an independent platform where I can always speak how I'd like to speak. I don't mean being all, lewd and swearing and all that kind of stuff. I don't mean being aggressive. I just mean continue to be as objective as possible, because as soon as you align yourself too much with an outfit, with a promotional outfit, with a broadcaster, they don't want you to say certain things. Luckily for me, I mean, I don't say anything that controversial anyway, because typically I'm analyzing it from a sporting perspective, so it's not been that much of a problem, or never will be that much of a problem for me. But yeah, sometimes, you just want to be able to say whatever you want. But most of the time, I don't have anything that controversial to say anyway. So yeah. Matt, again, last one. Mate, thank you. Last question about Roach. What did we miss about his resume? Was he underestimated or did he overperform? I think Roach might rise to the occasion. I just think that was his biggest test. And I think he rose to the occasion, like you said, and I think he's really good. I know he'd lost before to what's his name? The guy who beat Frampton. What is his name? The tall guy. Sorry, guys. Earlier in the day for me, and I've forgotten stuff. Yeah, Jamel Herring. Lost to UD to Jamel Herring. I've not watched that fight, so I need to go back and watch it. But maybe Roach is just that guy. Maybe he's really good, and styles make fights. Yeah, Matt, Jamel Herring, exactly. Styles make fights. Styles make fights, and I just think that I think Tank would win a rematch, because I think, as I said before, the more time you spend in the ring with a counterpuncher, the more information they have, the better their timing gets. I believe Tank would win a rematch, but yeah, I think he's good. Matt said, to be honest, I feel like you and Ade would absolutely be a good duo, and I'm anticipating you working with DAZN on the main show sooner than later. Well, I'm a big fan of Ade, as you guys know. I've known Ade for a long time, because I first met Ade in 2000 I think it was 2017. I first met Ade. Is that right? That doesn't sound right. Maybe it was 2018. I think it was 2000. I think I first emailed Ade in 2018 and we met at the end of that year. Ade's a great guy. And Ade is someone I hugely respect, because he was on his grind. He posted so many YouTube videos before he got to where he is now. I honestly don't know if that's what I want, though. I don't know if I want to be part of the live broadcast. I mean, obviously there's a price, and if I think that was where I could add value in boxing, then why not? But at the moment, my dream is this YouTube channel. And to make a massive independent platform would be what I'd love. But huge respect to Ade. I love doing stuff with Ade. I think he speaks so well about boxing. And I think that he is sort of our... I think the YouTube scene feel like Ade's kind of our guy, because he's come through that process. I think the only thing that is upsetting from that sense, as someone who loves YouTube, is that we don't get as many videos from Ade anymore. I know some people think he doesn't speak as freely as he used to, but I think he still speaks as freely. I just think he doesn't use... I think he speaks more carefully. I think he just thinks about what he says, but I still think they're genuinely his opinions. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with, tempering maybe some of the language you'd use and whatnot. But I'm a massive fan of Ade. I think he's a great guy. Him and G-Man have got their thing going on, so I think that'll be their podcast and their thing for the foreseeable, but I'm sure Ade will come on my channel from time to time if I ask him. Mithranda, you said, yes, this is the question I keep asking. Tank only has a plan A, and he is so confident he will lose rounds. When it doesn't work, he has no backup plans. Yeah, and he has that patience that he will get to you eventually, but if he doesn't, then yeah, I'm not sure. We'll do a few more. I've been going for nearly an hour. I'll do another 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes. Guys, you know what we'll do for the last 5-10 minutes? We've spoken about all these guys now. What we'll do for the last 5-10 minutes is you can ask me anything you'd like to ask me about me, because I think this is a good thing to do. People sometimes ask questions about myself in the comments. I tend to stay... I'm not a private person necessarily. I'm quite open, but obviously it's all boxing here. So the last 5 minutes, let's talk about... let's just... anything you'd like to know about me, about my life, my career, what I like about boxing, favorite fight, anything. If you want to get those questions in, we can do that for the last 5 minutes. So we'll do a little Q&A. I don't know if people use this thing. All right. First question. What is your favorite food? Let me just see if I can do this quickly. Start a Q&A. Ask about me for last 5. Cool. I don't know how that works, but we'll see. What is your favorite food? My favorite food... well, my diet... So I actually have an autoimmune disease, which a lot of people don't know, that I have to manage. I got it when I was 26, so I've had it for about 8 years now, which hasn't been the easiest thing. It took me a long time to deal with it, but my diet is largely sort of Mediterranean, so fruits, vegetables, meat, fish, and I really enjoy that. Guys, by the way, if any of you asked a question in the chat, please do it on the Q&A thing I just started because I can't see them now. It's annoying. It's come over them. But yeah, the foods I like. I mean, if I want to cheat, I do love pizza. I don't eat cheese, but I do love a pizza. I love steak. I eat a lot of steak. Yeah. But my favorite food, if I had to pick one thing, probably curry, probably Indian curry or Malaysian curry. Or I love my Asian food. I lived in Bali for 2 years, so when I was living in Bali, I ate so much of that stuff. A lot of chilies. I love stuff with chili in it. So yeah. I annoyingly can't see your questions, guys, because I've started this Q&A thing. So I think you're gonna have to ask them in there now. So that was stupid. Unless I end it. Let me end it. There is a question there that I'll answer. I'm going to end this Q&A thing because I can't see what other questions were asked. Back to the chat. There we go. Right. Sorry, I couldn't see. Right. Do you enjoy other sports outside of boxing? Yes, I do, mate. I'm a massive Chelsea fan. Massive Chelsea fan. And I co-host a Chelsea podcast with my friend George Benson, who is the biggest Chelsea YouTuber. And George was the reason I got to start doing YouTube again because when I was in Bali... Oh, shoot, my camera's just gone. Hang on a second, guys. Wait 1 second. 1 minute, people. Right, we should be back. Sorry about that, everyone. I wasn't paying attention to my battery, and it went. So, yeah. So, so I'm a massive Chelsea fan. No, George Benson. Benson. He used to be a massive UK YouTuber. He was like one of the first million subscriber channels. And I've always admired the guy because he just one day decided, I don't want to do this anymore. And he got rid of it, started other stuff. He ended up with the Chelsea channel. Anyway, we met in Bali. We had a studio together, and I got to just be around him and just see how he did things. And it was very, very impactful for me because I'd started this channel years ago. I did a few things on it, and it got to 1,000 subscribers, but it was all about, documentaries and interviews and all that kind of thing. And it made me really, I was always too, I'd say underconfident, insecure to put myself on camera and put my opinions forward. I just sort of thought, who the fuck needs to hear what I have to say? Do you know what I mean? But the more I grew in myself over the years, the more I became happy to do this. And I've realized that actually people do appreciate some of the things I think and say about boxing. So that's the old me. Like I was an underconfident person. I'm all good now. But I think I just realized I have a lot to offer to the space that I didn't realize I had. So yeah. Mithranda has asked, have I ever boxed? So my boxing history is interesting because I've never been part of a gym. I've never been like regularly part of a boxing club. And I'm one of these guys where I've trained technique. I used to get pros to teach me sometimes because I previously was a videographer and I still am a videographer. My business outside of YouTube is video production. Hence why my quality on my channel is fairly decent. But I was filming pros. I started off making promos for fighters up in Scotland. And sometimes they would take me for training sessions as a form of payment. So that's how I really started getting into it. And I'd always been interested in it. I used to go and hit the bags in the gym. I didn't really know what the hell I was doing. And then I just started watching more and more and more boxing and trying to understand how things worked, trying to get better. One of my best friends, my best friend, who I live with in Edinburgh, he is really into it as well. So we used to go and hold pads for each other and just try and learn things. And then over the years, I've just kind of got better and better at the technical side of it. I've just not sparred enough. That's my biggest thing. I've sparred maybe 3 or 4 times in my life. I used to kickbox when I was a kid. I used to kickbox regularly until I was about 13, but that kind of goes when you don't do it for forever. So my history of boxing is I train in gyms. It's my number one way I keep fit. And I've actually just joined a gym. I'm living in Melbourne now. I've actually just joined a gym where I'm going to be doing classes and I'm going to start sparring properly. So I talked earlier in the year about doing a Train Like a Pro series, and I'm still hoping to do that. It's just been something that I would need to commit my time to because it is a time-consuming thing to actually put my body through that. To film it is difficult because I can't film myself. It's quite difficult to film yourself, so I need to find someone to help me film. But I'm still planning on doing that, and I want to kind of do a series of, how good can you get over the age of 30 at boxing? I'm 34 now. My ability level is limited, but I think technically I'm pretty good. It's just I need to get used to having people trying to hit me so that I can do what I know, in the ring. It's one thing being able to intellectualize boxing and see technique and analyze. It's another thing being able to get your own body to do it. So yeah. Who else have we got here? Boxing Edits TV. Yes, Henry, mate. Glad to join the stream. Big up yourself, mate. You might want to rewind because I'm going to be ending soon, but feel free to watch the replay. Miles Carey. It's a bit like Mariah Carey. You like the male version. I love that. Big ups from Canada. Have you ever boxed? Just answered that. So, yep, that's my history of boxing. Chili tea. Yes. Malaysian food. Yes. My girlfriend she's Australian, but originally Malaysian. And her mum makes good Malaysian food. I'll say that. Very, very delicious. Yep. What is your least favorite boxing fight? My least. Oh, do you know what? That's actually quite easy. Malik Scott against Luis Ortiz. If any of you have not seen Malik Scott against Luis Ortiz, don't watch it. Don't watch it. It is the worst fight you will ever see. Ever see. It is a disgusting fight. It is. I can't tell you how bad it is. Horrendous. Alvo, yes, guys. Boxing X TV, thoughts on Teo versus Barboza? I'll be honest with you, mate. I need to watch Barboza more. I watched him against Jack Catterall, but I haven't studied him, and I need to watch more of his fights. He looks like a decent boxer. I expect Teo to deal with him. I think Teo is that guy. I think he's super talented when he's on his game. I think he's one of the best guys out there, pound for pound. He could be right up there. So I expect Teo to deal with him, but we will cover it in a bit more detail. Who's your favorite Rocky opponent? It's got to be Clubber Lang. It's got to be Clubber Lang because Rocky 3 is my favorite by far. How he goes in, he changes his whole style. Fantastic movie. Mithrandir says, do it. I think we'll call that a stream, guys. Unless any of you got any more questions. I'll take one more question if anybody else wants to bang a question in before we wrap. But I'll try and do this on every stream. We'll try and put a little Q&A at the end where it's more sort of personal opinions. Clubber was a beast, I agree. Don't forget to bang a like on the stream before I go, guys. That would help. Help get it out there once it goes live and people can sort of watch it as a video. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the stream. I think we're going to try and do this more. I think once a week, if we can try and do one of these, that would be really good. All right, last two. Collab with Ade. I've done a collab with Ade last year. I would love to, but I know he's busy with his stuff with G-Man. So, we'll see. That's their podcast now, so that'll be his priority. And but yeah, I'll invite him on for sure from time to time. I'm hoping actually to do a collab with Cloister. I don't know if any of you guys know his channel, but go and check out if you haven't seen it. He's here in Melbourne, so I'm going to try and get him to show his face. Last one, best fight you've been to. The best fight I've been to was Cash Farouk against Lee McGregor. I don't know if any of you guys know who they are, but absolutely incredible fight. Absolutely incredible fight. The atmosphere was amazing. I'm English, but I grew up in Scotland. Scotland is my home. And to have the Glasgow crowd on one side, the Edinburgh crowd on the other side, the fight itself, absolutely quality. It was brilliant. Thank you for the comments, guys. And yeah, look, guys, if you want to see a Henry Ade G-Man collab, you're going to have to start getting on them and letting them know that's what you want because the guys will make the decision. I will receive the call up if indeed that is what they want. But guys, thank you very much for joining me on the stream. Hope you all have a fantastic night, afternoon, or day, wherever you are. And as I always say, on to the next one.